All right, so we're going to do an overview of CELMET, and I realized last night I didn't really introduce myself other than saying that I was the diversity director. You guys knew I'm a waffle maker for my dissertation, right? Talked about that. So I did my undergraduate in mechanical engineering at Boston University, and then I went straight into the post-bachelor PhD program. So I fast-tracked it through. My intent had always been just to get a master's degree because I knew I would be in an underrepresented sort of area, being a female in mechanical engineering. I thought getting a master's would give me a leg up in getting a job in industry. And I started doing research the summer before my freshman year in college, and I just loved it so much I continued doing research for my entire undergrad and ended up staying with that same faculty member for my dissertation. He got a NSF grant and said, go take the GREs and apply to the PhD program, and I did. So then after that, I went to 3 different startup companies, mostly doing materials processing, and then eventually becoming a manufacturing engineering manager before I came back to BU, where I am now. So I work for the Photonics Center. I'm manager of operations and technical programs for our 235,000 square foot building. I am the laser safety subcommittee chair for the university. I am on many grants as a program coordinator of the NRT, which we talked about last night, Understanding the Brain Neurophotonics, the diversity director and safety director for our ERC, and also the co-director for our REU and RET sites in integrated manufacturing. So that's about me. So I just want to let you know who I was, other than the diversity director and the person who emails you all the time. So just to give you guys another review, we're doing an introduction. Then we're going to have a safety discussion, and you see the note. This is not a substitution for institutional required laser or lab safety training. I am not a certified EHS trainer. We're just going to talk about some topics related to the ERC. And if you guys have questions, it's a great opportunity to raise them. We're going to have a break after, oh, no, we're not, I'm sorry. We're going to have IP discussions, patents, disclosure, software, etc. A good opportunity we talked about last night. If there's questions regarding what can I post on social media that's not infringing on potential IP, those are good questions to ask our speaker, who's actually from University of Michigan's Office of Technology Transfer. Then we have a break. And then we have Jonathan Fay is going to be leading a entrepreneurial innovation seminar with Max Stein. And then after that, we're going straight into our bioethics seminar. Jonathan Kimmelman from McGill University flew in this morning on a red eye. So he's coming and he's going to talk with us. He's going to give a lecture, and then there'll be an open discussion time where we can really talk about some of the issues and things like that. So this, again, there's 2 asterisks there. This is not a substitution for your required institutional RCR training, just as you know. With the ERCs, there's an expectation that we do a little bit more than just the requirements. And we intend each year to bring in a new guest lecturer, speaker, to talk about different issues as our ERC grows and what topics may come up that we need to really think a little bit more deeply about. Then we have lunch, and then we're going to have breakout sessions for research thrust areas and interconnected groups. So we talked about sort of for the first part of that, for a lot of you, it's the first time everybody in your group is together. So we thought we'd give some time for each thrust area to meet separately to just kind of get to know each other, talk about things. And then after that, there'll be collected groups that get together. It might be everybody, it might be one group migrating around. So we'll figure it out sort of a way that we can just kind of get to know each other and talk with each other. And then everyone has inclusive excellence training from 4:30 to 7. And that is 2 separate sessions. So the graduate students, undergrads, and postdocs will be in one session, faculty and staff in another session. And then we all meet up for dinner at 7. So it's a long day, I know, but your time is precious and valuable, and we only have limited amounts that we can take to help with training. And it's not several weeks, as other ERCs sometimes have. So I just wanted to pop this up here real quick. We had 100% participation in our survey that we sent out, our forums, where we were trying to collect some information about you all. And we asked for students, if they wanted to post what their goals were, what their personal goals were for the retreat. And I told you last night, it was anonymized. Brenda put it together in a Word document for me, so I have no idea who said what. And I won't look either. It doesn't really matter. But when I was putting this together, I noticed that they sort of fell into 3 topical areas. So I tried to put those in there, and it may not have been intentional, but it kind of seemed that way to me. So it seemed like there were some educational goals that folks were looking at, like absorbing information on all the projects in the ERC, learning approaches and techniques from other groups, learning more about the biological side of cardiovascular tissue. Then I saw some research goals. Discuss progress to receive broad feedback and guidance for future work. Sharing ideas with peers in my research areas of interest. And then I felt like the rest sort of lumped into inclusivity. Build future collaborations. Finding collaborators to optimize efficiency. I like that one. That was a really great thing, because there's nothing worse than reinventing the wheel. We're engineers. Use what's there and improve it. Getting to know people within the ERC. That is extremely important. Connecting names and faces. We did that last night. I tried. I did. I actually woke up in the middle of the night and was like, Sanaya does violin. Jonathan likes the museum. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta get to sleep. Meeting all the other students. So I think we gave you guys some time last night to hang out and meet and things like that. And excited for communications training and ethics workshops. Yes. I was excited to see that, and I hope that last night was interesting. Maybe it was a little uncomfortable, but I hope we were supportive enough that everyone felt like they learned something, and it's the start of more in the future. All right, everybody's good so far? Here we go. All right. So the National Science Foundation, ERC, has what they call the 3-plane chart. Also, the 3-plane diagram is what we call it in our strategic plan. The ERC has developed this, and it's actually, I've thought about it a lot. Being from industry, it's actually an interesting, almost product development concept, product life cycle. Essentially, you start on the bottom, right? You have to build a strong foundation. If you don't have a strong foundation, it crumbles. So you have fundamental knowledge, a knowledge base, and here's where the fundamental research occurs. And so you see these barriers. Well, to me, what barriers means is risk. What are the risks? What are the things that could go wrong? And then how do you do a risk assessment? How do you figure out how to eliminate those risks or find out, yeah, that's not going to work. We have to drop that part. So that's a lot of product development in industries. You come up with a concept, you come up with an idea, it doesn't work. You can't keep throwing money at it to make it work. It just isn't going to work. You have to move on and try new things. So fundamental research, some of these topics are going to move up to fundamental insights. So those fundamental insights go into the enabling technologies, or the technology base of the ERC. Here you have test beds that are going to be used to test that enabling research, enabling technology that's coming out of the fundamental research. Are all the risks gone? Nope. We have barriers, because now we're taking many different pieces of fundamental research and putting them together in our test beds, and things could go wildly wrong. But we don't know that until we put them together. So risk assessments, some things will be dropped out, some things will move up, and they'll move up the technology elements into technology integrations for the systems approach. So again, the test beds, they might be modified to accommodate some of the things that we learn in the enabling technology. And there will be still barriers, risks that we're going to assess. And in the end, you see the stakeholders up at the top. I believe in our entrepreneurial workshop that we'll be talking about that. Stakeholders are customers, right? So they have requirements. The requirements go back. The products and outcomes come out. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the, I should have put it in here. I still remember from my mechanical design class, the salesman talks to the customer and, this is what the customer wants. And then the marketing person makes it into something else. And then the engineer makes it into something else. And in the end, it's a picture of a little kid who just wanted a tire swing. And it's a really cool thing. I'll look it up, I'll share it with you all. But it's a great way of thinking about understanding the customer requirements. And the engineers need to be there understanding customer requirements. And I think that's an important part of culture, industry culture that's definitely changing. Okay, so now we know generally what the three-plane diagram is. So let's look at cell mass. So there's a lot in here, okay? And I just want you to take a minute, look at it. We can flip back to the other one if you want to kind of see, compare, things like that. We're going to go into a little bit more detail on the next slide as we start to dig in. So anyone want to, any comments or thoughts? Does anyone want to share anything? No? Okay. There's the knowledge base is obviously the beginning. This is supposed to be a three-plane diagram for our 10-year program. So obviously, majority of the things are going to be kind of down in here. Okay, and then move on to the next slide. Yeah, so we have name manufacturing, which is also identified as the glue. And the thrust area leader for that is Stephen Forrest. Or Steve, does he prefer Steve? I guess Steve Forrest. Thrust area 2, as Alice said, is nanomechanics, also known as scaffolds. We heard a lot about scaffolds last night in our 15-second pitches. Alice White is that thrust area leader. Thrust area 3 is tissue or cell engineering, and Chris Chen is the thrust area leader for that. And then the fourth thrust area is photonics, optics, imaging, which we also heard a lot of folks talking about that last night. And Tom Bufano is the thrust area leader for that. Okay, so are there any questions on thrust areas? Okay. So now, I'm trying to go slow because this is going to get crazy. Okay. So, is there an extra, were there any extras of that chart by chance that got handed out? Oh, yes. Okay. So this is the decoder ring. We spent a bunch of time, and we think we got it. So if you look at your chart that I handed out, you should see thrust area 1, nano manufacturing glue, thrust area lead Stephen Forrest. That's where we're going to start. Okay. Did you not get one? Okay. So, all right. So everybody should be on the 1 nano manufacturing as the first page. Okay. So, before we delve into this chart, I just want to show you some color coding that was done here. So, hopefully we're good with that. So, all right. So at the top, and maybe I'll use the pointer here so that you can see where I am. You're on. Oh yeah. Okay. I can see there. Sorry. Okay. So, TA, thrust area. 1, 2, 3, 4, which we just talked about on the previous slide. Yellow or gold is nano manufacturing or the glue with the thrust area lead Stephen Forrest. Thrust area 2, scaffolds, is in blue with the lead Alice White. Thrust area 3 is in red, cell engineering Chris Chen. Thrust area 4 is green, optics imaging, Tom Bufano. So this one is in gold, this one is in red, that one's blue, and that one's green. So that is project number 1 in nanomanufacturing. Oops. This one, cell material interactions, is project 1 in thrust area 3. This one is project 1, selecting, testing scaffold materials in thrust area 2 scaffolds. And this green one, image calcium, I'm assuming ions, is that what this is? Okay. That's in the thrust area 4 optics imaging. Okay? So absorb a little bit. So each of the numbers are color-coded and identify a project number. And the project numbers are identified as 1 through 10. Some are, and this is the 10-year plan. No, this is the 5-year plan. So you can see at the top, it goes year 1, 4 quarters, year 2, 4 quarters, et cetera, okay? Is everybody with me? Okay, so this is the same exact 3-plane diagram that didn't have numbers before. So we just went through the color coding. So the color coding is the same as the previous, and I realized I should have probably put those colors and tasks up there, but let's see how good my memory is today. Gold, which is a Michigan color, was thrust area 1 with Steve Forrest as the lead. Blue was thrust area 2 with Alice White as the lead. Scaffolds, I forgot to say that. Steve Forrest was nano manufacturing, and then we had scaffolds for thrust area 2. Thrust area 3 was red, Chris Chen for cell tissue engineering, and thrust area 4 was green for optics, imaging, photonics with Tom Labana. Okay, so everybody's good with that. My memory's working this morning. It's good. So, we're just going to look at a couple, all right? So, atomic and molecular glues, project number 1, thrust area 1, Steve Forrest, okay? This is in the fundamental knowledge. Remember, first layer, fundamental knowledge. What was the next layer up? Technology, great. Final layer, systems. Okay. I told you I wasn't testing you. I'm just trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that I remember as well. All right. Cellular assembly. Thrust area, shout it out. Thrust area, project, wait, but project number? Yes, okay. There should be a comma there, I believe. So, optical sensing and imaging, thrust area, 4. Project number, and, okay. Barriers. What are barriers again? Risks. Nanomechanics. Thrust area. 2. Project. So there's some risks. So your thrust area should be talking about those risks, trying to mitigate those. Big one here. Thrust area. Project. What is it? Biocompatibility. Youch. That's the very first fundamental problem that we're going to have to solve. Okay, now, let's take our decoder ring. Okay. All right. Clarence. All right. Clarence is our first up. He, if we go over all the way to thrust area, he's in thrust area 1, nanomanufacturing, project, what? 1, with his task being demonstrate attachment of small molecules to gold nanopads deposited by atomic calligraphy, correct? Description, build catalog of biocompatible glues. So project number 1, thrust area 1, that's where Clarence is working. He's also up here. Is Clarence working by himself? Who else is working with Clarence? Jonathan, who likes art. Who else? Aisha. Who's Aisha again? Do we remember what she was from last night? She's our Student Leadership Council lead. She's cringing over there. Okay. There's more than one project in Thrust Area 1. We have project number 2. Way up at the top. Okay. So who's working on project number 2? Anybody? Josh and Jeremy. Their PI or mentor is David Bishop. And so Clarence works with Steve. Jonathan and Aisha work with Jorg. So you've got who they work for. Their email address is there too in case you want to talk to them. And you also know which school they're at in case you want to visit. I'm not going to go through what everybody's task description is. This isn't our strategic plan. It may not be what you call your project on a day-to-day basis, but at least have familiarity of what the strategic plan is and how the research that you're doing, that you can describe it in a similar way. And also just understand how we have a descriptor. So there's different things in the strategic plan. We will share the strategic plan with the students.
Yeah, I mean, they should all have read the proposal, and the strategic plan is not that different.
Right. But we'll give you the resources for you to see how this maps out, and we took a lot of time to put this chart together, and I hope it does make sense. Let's jump to thrust area 2, just so that we get more than thrust area 1 in here. So Jennifer is at Florida International working with Arvind on nanomechanics, project 1, characterizing scaffolds. So she is in a risk area of new materials. She is
She's de-risking.
She's de-risking. There you go. So it says selecting, testing scaffold materials. She's working with Pranjal, who's sitting back there in the back. He's characterizing mechanical properties of cell scaffolds. And Jesse, you're hiding on me. Yeah. Jesse, who works with Mark Grindstaff and Alice White at BU, is also working on this same project, developing a catalog of bio and photo-degradable, non-sticky and sticky coatings for the 3D scaffold. That's pretty cool. So are you working a lot with Pranjal and Jenny? And Christos? All right. Excellent. All right. Does that make sense? Do people feel comfortable being able to use this chart, look at the 3-plane diagram? Does anyone want to try one on their own? Volunteer? Pick a project. Just pick one. Somebody throw out a number. Give us a number. Not above 5, though. 4. What color?
Red.
Okay. Red 4. Bingo. I sunk the battleship. What's red? Thrust area. Okay, so we flip. We get to thrust area 3.
Too early to be, there is a red.
Tori said 3, so we're going to look at project 3 in thrust area 3. So that's Kahan. Kahan here? Where's Kahan? Oh, okay. All right, not here. Anyway, Kahan is doing examine cardiomyocyte attachment to materials. And that is, where's red 3? Somebody? Maybe up there. Cellular differentiation. All right, so are we good? We're like ready to move on? So we've been talking about the site visit, right? And some of you might be like, what's the site visit? Every year, the NSF, this big team of folks, are going to come in and they're going to evaluate the ERC. They're going to ask questions, we're going to be presenting, students will be doing poster sessions, students will be talking with the ERC site committee. Like I said last night, the students are the people that the site committee wants to hear from, and they will take you aside and ask you questions, which is why we're training you on these things, so that you aren't like, what's the three-plane diagram? Isn't that something we learned in geometry or something? So you know what the nomenclature is. If they say, do you know who's working in thrust area, who's leading thrust area 2? Everyone will say, exactly. So that's why we want to make sure you understand the terminology, you're familiar with the terms we're using, and ask your PI periodically, is this related to thrust area 2 project 3? And when they say, wait, what? Pull out your chart. We will share this with the faculty. We did actually share this with the faculty to make sure that we had everyone properly identified. Okay, so things that we're going to be doing today are things that you need to know for the site visit according to what we understand. IP training, the faculty and students need to be aware of IP and how to protect it. Safety training, you guys all have institutional safety training. We are just going to do a safety discussion today as we talked about. Ethics training, you have your RCR, but the ERC has more in-depth ethics training. Understanding and involvement with the K-12 program. Tomorrow you'll be learning more about this at the retreat. Volunteer, right? I mean, it's a great way for you to practice your communication skills. Students and postdocs need to know where they are in the three-plane diagram. I feel like we got it. We got it? Okay. What is the Student Leadership Council, and who are the leaders of it? So I know we're developing that, but everybody needs to know, and everybody needs to be engaged, and we're going to get it kicked off the ground. And we're all going to work together.